Talk about representation that you mentioned earlier, because I know for myself growing up, that was a huge thing that I feel like was kind of lacked. When I was growing up and looking at, oh, I love this sport and I really want to make it to the national level. Especially, I started when I was 8 years old playing in Guam. So all the people around me, they didn't look like me at all. I mean, I played with a lot of Asians. I played a lot of boys, a lot of Pacific Islanders. So I originally didn't have anybody that looked with me, but that didn't stop me from, kind of falling in love with the game even more. And it was with like kids who love the sport so much that we would play every day. I mean, when soccer wasn't in season, we were still in the neighborhood playing soccer every single day. I had a huge backyard at the time, so my house was kind of the place everybody came. So I think that's really where I started to fall in love with the game. But as I got older and I moved stateside, looking around, I was always the only brown girl on my team, and there was always nobody that looked like me. And then looking at like US soccer, women's soccer, I I remember I only had Sydney LaRue. That was the only girl that ever kind of looked like me. She was Canadian, so she didn't quite fit who I was, but she played on the US national team and I fell in love with her. I mean, even my mom could tell you today, I had posters of her, everything she did. I knew exactly her personal life, her professional career. I could tell you how many goals she scored in one season for her club or even for her national team career. So that's something that I wish I would have had more of, I guess, looking back. Like, I wish I would have been able to look at college athletes who look like me, or just even more people on the women's national team that look like me to look up to, because I didn't really have that type of outlet. And so me being able to kind of be that for younger girls is so important to me, because I understand how they feel and I understand that I didn't have that same opportunity as they have through me. So I'm very grateful that I'm able to give that back. But um, then moving into college, I actually chose my first school that I attended based on how many girls that look like me were there, not only there, but playing. So when I got to Mississippi State, I was ecstatic to see that there were 8 girls that looked like me starting in games on a consistent basis. We were starting like at least 6 games out the season. I think my freshman year, we only played 8 games. So, because it was COVID year. So having all 6 of us on only 10 people start, that's something that's unheard of, especially in the SEC. You just don't see numbers like that being represented, because even playing against other teams, we would look around and we'd almost feel bad for other teams that only did have one brown girl. I know like our rivals were Ole Miss, and so they would always have one girl, and we would always feel a little bit bad for her, because it was like we had such a strong community there within each other, and there was just things that we could talk about with each other that we couldn't talk about with other teammates. Or sometimes if something was said that we weren't quite comfortable with, I always knew I had somebody to reach out to and kind of be like, hey, did you hear what this kind of like bothered me? Did you hear what she said? Or did you see what the coach said about this issue? And it kind of bothered me. And I always had somebody to either tell me like my feelings were justified and I wasn't crazy for thinking that, some of the microaggressions were happening, because that is also a very real part of being the only Black girl on a team. Is there are constant microaggressions, not necessarily in a hateful way, but it's like I've had coaches be like, oh, maybe you're not running as fast because your braids are too tight. So things like that, where it's like, as a 12-year-old, I don't necessarily think that my performance is based on the braids that I have in my head. That's not something that's very encouraging to hear. It's not something that any of my other teammates would ever hear. It would more just be directed at me. So going through that was definitely a difficult time. So I think that having a little bit more representation now, because I do think nowadays in college soccer, you see more brown girls being able to be on a bigger platform, be at SEC schools, be at ACC schools, make moves in Power Five schools, especially like last year's Mac Herman winner, very good friend of mine, Joe. I haven't before Joe, I hadn't seen another Black woman be the Mac Herman winner in a while, at least. And so just seeing her and how that was able to happen, I think that we're moving in the right direction. I don't think it's something that is going to happen very fast, and or it might not be something that people younger might see right away, but I do think it is slowly developing in the right direction.